The early 2000s were not a particularly good time for the Disney parks around the world, especially bad time if you were a new Disney park in most cases. In 2001, Disneyland Resort got its second theme park, Disney's California Adventure, that was not received very well. Also around that time in 2005, Hong Kong Disneyland opened. It was a park that many felt was pretty incomplete and really a shell of the Disneyland model. And in between all of that, of course, Tokyo Disney Sea opened, but that one's an anomaly. But just a couple months later, Disneyland Paris would get its second park, and that park would be Walt Disney Studios Paris. Now, in the time since that park opened in 2002, it has pretty regularly, I would think nearly by anyone that's ever been to it, called the worst Disney park that has ever existed. Do I think that is true? In many cases, yes. I do not think it has been without its merits. I think it has had moments of grandeur that people often try to take from it because they just feel so, people are so angry and so hurt by the thematic effort that was made across the park that people try to rob some of the merits that it's earned over the years from it. But nonetheless, time has gone on several occasions. Money has been invested in this park in an attempt to try and fix it. And honestly, none of it has ever really felt like quite enough. And so finally, when the Walt Disney Company took control of their French resort, they decided it was probably time to spend the right amount of money to finally make this thing right. And so they announced an ambitious plan that included renaming the park into Disney Adventure World. Now, in the original plans they released, there was a giant lake, a long boulevard leading to said lake, some new additional flat rides along said boulevard, and at the end of the lake would be two new themed lands or worlds, one for Star Wars and one for Frozen. Now, you know, concept art is concept art for a reason. It's not what's necessarily promised. It's not always what happens. And in this case, it is not what happened. And so we have had a pretty tumultuous couple years watching this thing shake out. And now we have what feels like the real plan to fix this park and take it from, again, Walt Disney Studios Paris to Disney Adventure World. Now, I was lucky enough just a few days ago to be invited by Disneyland Paris to walk the construction site, see what they're up to, and get our first real look inside what is a completely new Disney park in many respects. And so this is weird. We've never done one of these about something that's not open yet, but we found so much and there's so much to talk about that I figured we should cover it in my honest review. As I said before, Walt Disney Studios Park, probably not anybody's favorite. My first trip to Disneyland Paris was in the spring of 2018. And this park's reputation preceded itself. That being said, I loved this park a lot more than I thought I would, and probably more than I was ever willing to admit. And part of that was a strong nostalgia for the Disney MGM studios. I grew up with that park. I was born in 1988. The park opened in '89, and for as long as I've been going to Disney World, there were, you know, those three parks: Magic Kingdom, Epcot, Hollywood Studios, were a part of it for me. And in my childhood, Epcot Center, absolutely my favorite. And for better or worse, probably for worse, changes happened at Epcot that made me not as fond of it as I once was. And as I entered my teenage years, I found myself falling in love with MGM, later, now Disney's Hollywood Studios. And so by the time we get to 2018, MGM or Hollywood Studios has started to lose a lot of its core pieces, the things that made it what it was. And it was in the middle of its transformation. And so at that time, I had a lot of nostalgia for what we had lost at that park. And so to walk in, you know, several months after the great movie ride had closed, to walk into this park, and not a pretty park, mind you, not a good park, but to walk in and see these things that reminded me so much of these core childhood memories, it just felt very homey for a park that is undoubtedly hideous. Like, I'm gonna tell you, I'm not gonna fight for too many of the merits of this original park, but I will say it had little things that if you grew up with MGM, it would touch you. And I think the singing in the, it's not singing in the rain there, but they had the singing in the rain umbrella scene essentially, where you stand on the umbrella and the water pours. And there were just big spotlights sitting out in the park, and just little vignettes that remind me so much of what we had lost in Florida. And of course, then you'd get on the backlot tour and you'd go to Catastrophe Canyon. And what could be more nostalgic about the Disney MGM studios than Catastrophe Canyon? So I had a soft spot for this park. And on top of it, Disneyland Paris has, for my dollar, the best entertainment department of all the Disney parks in the world. And they do so much sometimes with so little they're given. But Walt Disney Studios Park, again, a park that it's predetermined you're going to not enjoy. And I just fell in love with the entertainment there. Mickey and the Magician is a phenomenal show. In the last couple of years, they added Together, a Pixar musical, which I think is really, really solid. Yeah, and so there are things to like about this park. That being said, there are things I absolutely despise about this park. One of the things I despise about this park is Worlds of Pixar. Now, it wasn't Worlds of Pixar when I first started going. Now, they had if you travel to the right side of the park, you would find Mickey and the Magician. You'd also find the Magic Carpets of Aladdin, their version of it, which was not a good one, where there's a movie set, a flat backdrop behind it to make it look like you're in Agrabah, and it wasn't pretty. Then a series of flat rides. There was for what they called Toon Studio. Cars Race Rally, which you may be familiar with this ride system. It existed at Disney California Adventure as Francis's Ladybug Boogie in a Bug's Land. It also exists as the Whirlpool attraction in Mermaid Lagoon at Tokyo Disney Sea. And it's here as Cars Race Rally. It's a fun little kooky flat ride. You could do worse with these things, but nonetheless. And then across from it, Crush's Coaster. I know there are people out there who like Crush's Coaster. I would like to say to you, why? What do you like about this thing? I don't understand. Either way. Very loosely themed area, Toon Studio. So it's like in Toontown, there is a studio where they produce cartoons. And these two Pixar movies and the Magic Carpets attraction got roped into that. Of course, later, when they took a serious swing at fixing this park, they added Toy Story Playland with RC Racer, the Slinky Dog Zigzag Spin Ride, and the Green Army Men Parachute Drop. And what was, at the time, a big exclusive e-ticket for this park, which was Remy's Ratatouille Adventure as we now know it at Epcot. They didn't get to keep it as their own exclusive thing, which I think is a mistake. I think it's so important, especially if you're trying to rehabilitate the image of these younger Disney parks that had a bad start. It's so important to give them a unique identity, and the best way to do that is with a big, flashy e-ticket attraction that is solely belonging to them. Around the same time they're doing this project, they're also trying to fix Hong Kong Disneyland. And I think what was so important to actually fixing that park and putting it on the successful trajectory it's on right now was giving them two big original attractions, which are Big Grizzly Mountain Runaway Mine Cars and Mystic Manor. Those two rides are the reason to go to Hong Kong Disneyland. They are unique and spectacular and just reek of classic Disney somehow in the modern era. They are a testament to the fact that Disney Imagineering could still do fantastic original storytelling that could show financial dividends and financial returns if given the opportunity. And Disney, you should let them have that opportunity again. But either way, so for a little while, Remy was an exclusive attraction of this park. And so in the reimagining of this park from the studio to Disney Adventure World, they decided, okay, well, how do we make this, how do we tie this whole area together of Toon Studio and Place de Remy and Toy Story Playland? And it's like, well, those are all Pixar movies. So this must be a Pixar area. We'll call it Worlds of Pixar. And in the midst of all that, they get rid of the studio backlot tour. they keep a portion of it and they convert it into Cars Road Trip. I have talked at length about Cars Road Trip before. It is wacky and weird and wild. And I will say this. People say that's a terrible attraction. I don't know that that registers as one of the worst attractions I've ever seen. It barely ever has a wait time. It's short and sweet and to the point. And I'll tell you, I think people, because they didn't wait for it and because it wasn't too long and the kids seemed happy with it, no one, I think, walks off of that going, man, that was a waste. We wasted so much of our day and that was terrible. And I just don't think the general public walks off that ride feeling that way. I think they just walk off going like, oh, yeah, we did that. It's inoffensive. It's inoffensive. Is it a great feat of Imagineering? No. No, but it saved Catastrophe Canyon, which is good in my book. My greater problem with Cars Road Trip, and this will connect to the larger reimagining project, is the lead up and the area surrounding it. So when you leave Toy Story Playland and head into Cars Road Trip, that's the ride's name. I don't know what to call the area. The area doesn't have a name, but it's a walkway of just plain gray pavers. And on the left side, they carved out a little area, a little pad where they put a seating area, and that's where the Baby Bell truck resides. There is a food truck that sells Baby Bell sponsored treats. Yeah, that's a thing. And he's cool. I mean, he's got a face and everything. He's a Cars character. It works well enough. The most egregious thing in this area is they have the gall to play the Cars Land background music loop, as if we're on Route 66. Now, in the story of the ride, we are. Where is Radiator Springs? Where are we? There's just this little gray paver street. There's a hut, which at the entrance of Cars Road Trip, and then this Baby Bell cheese truck, and that somehow makes up this area. And it's just not enough. It's not enough to make this an area. And the fact that somehow this all connects into Worlds of Pixar with Toy Story and Ratatouille and then Crush and another Cars ride that is disconnected all the way on the other end of this land doesn't work for me. And then the crazy thing is right on the edge of that is then Magic Carpets of Aladdin and Mickey and the Magician, and that they fall under World Premiere Plaza somehow, some way. It's a pretty convoluted land, but I understand. Look, Imagineering was given a bunch of money, and I'm sure they'd rather spend a whole lot of it in fixing this park on a new back area that is going to be the focal point of this whole project. And so I think they just spent minimally what they had to up in the front of the park just to make it work enough for what they plan on doing in the back. But I wish the company would have been a little more ambitious to try to actually fix the larger problems of this park. And I think having walked the construction site, having walked around Adventure Bay and seeing that transition into Cars Road Trip, and I was just more gray pavers into gray pavers and a sign for Cars Road Trip that makes 0 sense off of Adventure Bay. There are some big things they're doing here. I think I would have told you, if you told me a couple weeks ago when I recorded this that I would be mostly positive, I would have told you were crazy. There's going to be some things I'm very positive about this project overall, which I was not before having seen it with my own eyes. But I can see some very big issues in the transition between the old and the new. Getting from the old part of the park to the new, there are some very big issues that no one wanted to spend the money to fix. I'm sure the Imagineers were like, we wish we could do this, but they just weren't given the funding to do so. And the money, look, we may be able to argue next year whether the money was spent correctly or not. You know, people will probably break the door down at that park to see World of Frozen and the new nighttime show and all these other things we're about to talk about. And so the point it'll be null and void. But it really rubs me the wrong way that they're doing such big things in the back, and then we're like, yeah, let's just leave that Motors Action arena sitting there, and let's just leave, Cars Road Trip will transition off of where, like somewhere between the Rapunzel attraction and Frozen and whatever. and it just doesn't. It really doesn't work. The gray pavers are going to be the thing we come back to the most in this, because so in the Cars road trip area was the first place we saw this, where just this gray, concrete tile, solid color across the whole area. Thankfully, it does get away from solid color eventually around this park. But then when they redid World Premiere Plaza, the very center behind what is now called World Premiere, it was Studio One, the entry area. They did all gray pavers in there too, and then there's gray pavers in Avengers Campus. It's a lot of gray pavers. There's no pavement, and I don't understand why. Was this a money decision? That's just the Disney paver world? This is what it feels like. I really don't like the flooring. Really don't like it. And maybe that sounds nitpicky. Maybe it is. We're going to nitpick a lot of things in this review. That's what we do in these. I just wish they would have broken up the flooring a little more, done something different in several places. And I don't know that that's where I thought the problem was in the area behind Studio One. For those that don't know, before this, there was a floor that a ground that looked like a film reel. It looked like a film reel was running across the ground. I don't see how that was a problem. Like, that was one of the more charming and endearing things about the worst Disney park ever built. Just leave it be. While we're back up in the front of the park, let's talk about the entry area. The park, being Walt Disney Studios Paris, began with, it looks like, a movie studio. And so you enter through the Disney studio gates. There was a big water tower, the Eiffel Tower, which, again, another thing to be nostalgic about. If you came from Florida going to Walt Disney Studios Paris, is the Eiffel Tower lives on. And it does bring me great joy that it's going to live on still. I don't think it makes any sense that it's going to live on. I think it would have made more sense continuing to live on at Disney's Hollywood Studios, if I'm being honest, but instead they kept it at Disney Adventure World. And then you go into the only fully interior main street of a Disney park, Studio One. Now, this had a lot of the vibes of early Disney California Adventure. It's very kitschy and hokey and not necessarily immersive. There was a theme, essentially. The theme, it was a space that was meant to evoke the feelings of classic Hollywood through neon signage with fun phrases and Hollywood facades, but they look like movie set facades, like they end and have the wood backing, and you could see where they cut off. Like, they're not meant to be real buildings. So there's a series of shops that weren't real full buildings. It's like you're in a movie set. Same thing with the dining space across the way, etc. And then you'd emerge out into the park, the loosest sense of the term park. And straight ahead would have been the studio tour entrance. And for some reason, behind all that, behind the building of Studio One would have been the partner statue. Now, the partner statue began its existence at Disneyland and Magic Kingdom, and it's Walt and Mickey. Was sculpted by Blaine Gibson, Disney, legendary Disney Imagineer. And man, it's real rough to have it in this park. I don't necessarily understand why they kept it. So now in the new, let's talk about the new. In reimagining this park, it seemed as if, much like Hollywood Studios, they wanted to get away from the celebration of production, a look behind the scenes, how movies and entertainment are made, and it becomes more a place where you step into these worlds and become part of the story. That is absolutely what they said Hollywood Studios was morphing into. And so when they say that now at these press conferences for Disney Adventure World, I'm like, yeah, that's the same thing you gave us for Hollywood Studios, that it's a place for you to live your own adventure in these, worlds from these movies you love. So we're getting that same PR spiel now. And in that spiel, I thought, well, you're really trying to reinvent this park. Now, Hollywood Studios, you had great bones. Hollywood Boulevard and Sunset Boulevard and Echo Lake, one of the greatest, most charming entry areas that's ever been built for any theme park on this planet, for my money. And so you didn't have to mess with the front of the park at all. You had a great entry sequence to begin with the Pan Pacific Auditorium out front. It's beautiful. This one, the entry sequence, was one of the things people complained about. Certainly when they were reimagining Disney's California Adventure, the entry sequence was, I think, public enemy number one. And they were like, we have to get rid of this. We have to kill this giant postcard and Sunshine Plaza. This has to go, and we have to build something with charm and story that welcomes people and is a great accompaniment, a great partner piece to Disneyland across the Esplanade. And so across the Esplanade in Paris, you have Disneyland Park. And Disneyland Park in Paris is, bar none, the best, most beautiful castle park Disney has ever built. They got it right. They got it so right. That second generation of Imagineers had learned everything there was to learn from the generation before, and now had the money behind them to do anything. And they did anything. It is as much as I love Tokyo Disney Sea, I think Disneyland Paris right there with it. Those are the two pinnacle parks in all of themed entertainment. It does not get better than those two parks. There are moments in other parks that are stronger, but never a cohesive overall product of the whole park as strong as those two. But with that across the Esplanade, same as when they reimagined California Adventure, the expectations have to be high, and you have to be building something that is impressive and beautiful and charming. And so I thought it was a great opportunity. I was like, oh, just like California Adventure. Well, they're going to reimagine the front of this park, right? And that first art comes out, and they kind of didn't. And you're like, oh, you're going to keep the front? Okay, but that's one of the things people really don't like about your park. And then, so a little bit later, they finally reveal, okay, we're keeping the buildings up front, and we're going to keep the Studio One building, but we're going to reimagine it into something called World Premiere. And the idea being that you emerge from the Walt Disney Studios, you come out of the studio into Hollywood, and you're at this gala premiere party at the Hollywood Gardens, and you go from the premiere party into the premiere, and that's World Premiere Plaza. You emerge, and then you're in the movies. That's still a park that celebrates Hollywood. That is still very much in theme, and at least very much the same vibe that your park was before. Look, now I'm sure, again, if the money was there, Imagineers probably wanted to clear the slate and kind of start over. But we live in the real world, and it's not possible. They had to leave things standing in this park. The park couldn't close. So you had to leave things. And look, I think they had a good enough entertainment and attraction lineup that they would have been fine if they had leveled the front of the park, the entry area. But they just decided not to do it. I've had 2 trips to experience the interior of World Premiere, and I have mixed emotions about that interior. On one end, I'm like, oh, they didn't ruin it too much. And I know I just said ruin it. Well, I'm going to say something weird. I liked Studio One. I didn't think that space was bad. What I think is bad is the fact that you built a Main Street for a park that's inside. I know the Paris weather is what it is, but you solved it in 1992. You built a Main Street that was still a Main Street, but you gave people the option to go through these arcades that were maybe not climate controlled, but at least safe from the elements. And you built walkways that go all the way around the park where you would be covered from the elements. You solved it already. The solution existed. And so, look, it's the darkest period in the history of WDI and the theme parks is that late 90s, early 2000s. I don't like it's no secret. I did not like Bob Chapek. I don't think things got quite as dark during the Bob Chapek years as they did in those late 90s, early 2000s. I remember, I was fairly young, but I remember just coming to expect that Disney was going to build garbage. That was the expectation for a good while. Like, we got beat up for a while. And this is a period where only park I'm visiting is Walt Disney World. And we got beat up for a while. I know people love Animal Kingdom now. The Animal Kingdom that opened wasn't great. There wasn't a lot in it. Still not a lot in it, but there was even less in it then. And that park did not resonate with me when it opened. I liked the few things there were, but it just felt empty. There wasn't enough to do. And then following that up, there was a lot of bad changes at Epcot. Particularly, we lost the original Journey into Imagination. We got Journey into Your Imagination, which, for my money, not Cars Road Trip, that is actually the worst Disney attraction of all time, bar none. No argument. There is no argument that's the worst ride ever, and had a very short lifespan before we got Journey into Imagination with Figment, the current iteration. But it's a real rough patch for us. Mission Space and that, like the big thing was supposed to be Mission Space, and that kind of fell flat. I remember being just honestly surprised that Mickey's Filler Magic turned out great. I remember going into that, I was like, yeah, this is a period where just they're just not building good things anymore. And we went into Filler Magic, and I sat there and it ends, and we all looked at each other, my family and I, and we just looked and went, that was great, right? Wow, they did something great again. It was that surprising at that time. And I imagine if you were a Disneyland Paris regular, it probably felt that way every time they added something of value to the Walt Disney Studios park. But nonetheless, I understand this is of a bad era. Building the interior Main Street was not a great idea. That being said, I liked that interior. The kitschy thing worked for me. I didn't think it was DCA level cheap and bad. It didn't feel that way to me, at least. But I don't know. I have a particular fondness and nostalgia for MGM that might blind me and maybe why I enjoyed that space. But I didn't think they needed to touch it. So look, what they did, I don't think was a bad idea. They cleaned it up. They took the kitschiness away and made it a clean and appealing space. And in that aspect of it, I like. I think the worst idea ever is having an interior Main Street where you've boxed people in with the hamburger restaurant, because you inevitably just have an entry sequence that always smells like bad hamburgers. And they can't escape this. And now, like, they pulled to build the Hollywood Gardens restaurant side, they took a lot of the facades and walls down in there, which opens you up to the smell. So now the smell can leave that side of the building and permeate the whole space. So now your first feelings of the park are not, oh, I'm in Hollywood. It's, oh, this building smells of hamburgers. And look, I know it was super important to continue to have that restaurant space because this was a park lacking a lot of dining options. It is a park riddled with these food trucks and food carts. And it makes up so much of the front of the park, and it makes it feel like a temporary theme park. It just makes it feel, I don't understand why they didn't add more dining capacity, but thankfully they are adding it in the back section, which we'll talk about in a few moments. But yeah, so I think the problem was if you were gonna bother redoing Studio One up in the front of the park, you should have just leveled it and started over. At that point, I would have just left it alone, saved the money for a rainy day, and come back and do what needed to be done. But instead, you spend a bunch of money in there, and yeah, it's cleaner and nicer, I think, but I don't think it's going to impact guests enough to have been worth the time and effort. And I don't think you made a big enough statement. You're trying to convince people there's a whole new park. You've changed the name. And I don't think it's a big enough statement when people walk up to the park and it looks exactly like it did the last time they came to it when they were mad about it. I think it's you've sent the wrong message, essentially. I would have rerouted some money into the front of the park. But again, I'll probably be deemed wrong because they built a Frozen Land and opened a cool nighttime show and a couple other things. People are like, oh, let's go there. It's not going to matter probably. But if it didn't matter, then I would have rathered that money, again, that world premiere money, been spent differently. But either way, so that's what they did up front, and you have World Premiere Plaza. And, Avengers Campus, I've already talked about when that opened a couple years ago. We did a review of that. I talked about how much I liked that version. But I will say over time, look, I don't like any of the Avengers campuses. I don't think they're good lands. I don't think it's a good story. I don't think the content inside is Disney quality in any way. And so the weird thing is I think I liked Walt Disney Studios Paris more when everyone hated it than I do now that they've spent all this money on it. Like, I don't think they've done things that resonate with me personally. I will say in the end, I'm going to tell you, it's going to be a far greater success despite picking all the things I would have never done with it. And I can understand that. But yeah, so that's what's happened up in the front of the park. Well, let's talk about what's going to be completely new, the area they've expanded going into the back. So there is Adventure Way, which leads to Adventure Bay. These names are terrible. The name of this park and the names of these spaces are, Billy, please bleep this. They're awful. I don't know why this was decided upon, but either way, it is what it is at this point. Adventure Way goes to Adventure Bay, and around Adventure Bay will be these immersive worlds. Now, with the rebrand and quote-unquote reopening of this park next year, there will be one world. There will be World of Frozen, which, again, I don't think makes a strong statement. I think this park was so bad that I think you had to, in quick succession, open a number of these worlds and establish that this is a whole new thing. But that's not the rate at which this is going to happen. That's not the speed at which this is going to happen. We're going to get World of Frozen in 2026, and then a couple years later, you're going to get the Lion King area, and then probably a couple years after that, you'll get the other one, which we'll talk about, the rumored one. We'll talk about in a moment. But for now, you're getting a walkway out to Adventure Bay called Adventure Way, and along that there will be essentially a British garden, like a little British park area that has statues of characters Disney took from British literature, that being Winnie the Pooh, Peter Pan, Mary Poppins, 101 Dalmatians, etc. An area inspired by those and having statues from some of those films. There'll also be a gazebo there with entertainment. Now, we'll talk about the entertainment shortly. I think the entertainment lineup for this park is the thing I'm actually most excited for, and I think that's going to help them in a big way, because I don't know that they built enough otherwise to make this a full, to make this moment, this rebirth moment next March feel as big as it needs to feel. They needed to round out the lineup, and I think the entertainment thankfully did, while we wait for a couple more attractions to come online. Across the way on Adventure Way is the Rapunzel Tangled Spin ride, or Rapunzel's Tangled Spin, which is, it's just the teacups. It's a tangled version of the teacups. I don't get this decision. For me, one of the great problems of Walt Disney Studios Park was, because there was never a lot of money to fix it, the best way for them to add a bunch of rides was to keep building flat rides. Flat rides are, for the most part, sort of rethemed, or heavily themed, off the shelf. I don't know what else to call them. Carnival rides. Disneyland certainly had them in 1955 when it opened. Dumbo and Mad Tea Party and the Carousel, and those were not things that Imagineers invented from scratch. They were ride systems that existed and Disney modified to fit their needs, which was not uncommon in early Disneyland. But the problem at Walt Disney Studios Park is, look, it's not wrong to have a couple of flat rides in your park. Walt Disney Studios Park just has the most of them of any Disney park in the world, right? Because you have the spinner, a flying spinner ride in Magic Carpets of Aladdin. You have the Cars Race Rally attraction. Toy Story Playland is purely flat rides. RC Racer, Slinky Dog, Zigzag Dash, and Green Army Men Parachute Drop. That already puts you at five. Flat rides in this park. That's a lot. And so now you have a sixth flat ride, which is the teacups. You're just gonna have another teacup ride in a park across the way from the other park that already has, a Mad Hatter teacup ride. And then on top of that, you announce that, the plot on the opposite side of Adventure Way, just past the British Gardens, is going to be a seventh flat ride in a couple years' time. It's going to be a wave swinger, and we're going to theme it to Up. Why is it themed to Up next to a British Garden? I don't know, but it is. The word on the street is that wave swinger was originally supposed to be Mary Poppins themed, and I think after the sequel movie didn't do what they wanted it to do, they decided, maybe not. But nonetheless, it's still next to the British Garden area, so that's where it will be. I just think it's weird. I would have just spent that money elsewhere. I think if anything could have afforded to have been a little empty when you open Adventure Way and Adventure Bay, it is Adventure Way. You could have just filled that out with entertainment and relaxation space and park spaces, and maybe, put some of your counter service food effort there, just because you have so little counter service food option towards the front of the park anyway. And you know you're going to build quick service locations in each of those worlds. It's inevitable. That's going to happen. And so you could add stuff out on the way between the two and had that round out that space more. And then instead of being like, well, World of Frozen will be ready for, when we rename the park in the spring of 2026, that will open. But then we're also going to have a flat ride. Instead, I would have taken money for the 2 flat rides and all that and put it into another world, even if it's a world that was less, maybe not as detail heavy or as expensive to build as World of Frozen or Lion King. Just have another land for people to go in with at least one indoor fresh attraction. Like Ratatouille. Ratatouille is a great example. Like, they built a land with one ride, but it was something that was meaningful to people and certainly helped them attendance-wise. Why didn't we do that with Disney Adventure World? Why couldn't that be one of the worlds? This park certainly could have used one more real big attraction coming, and one that wasn't something that exists in other Disney parks in the world. Frozen Ever After exists at Epcot, and the version you're going to see in Disney Adventure World, for the most part, exists at Hong Kong Disneyland. So look, people love Frozen. It will be a great hit here. But again, I think it was so important to have things that are wholly unique to this park to make it special and different and make people from around the world want to go there. Lion King's going to do it. Lion King is absolutely the thing that is going to make this place stand out and make it special and draw people to book. People who would have never thought I should go to the Disney theme parks in Paris, France, are going to say, oh, we need to go because I got to see this Lion King ride. That's how it's always worked. That's how you fixed California Adventure. You built Cars Land, this giant, amazing thing that is exclusive to that park, and it still pays dividends now because it's still this thing that people are like, we have got to go see that. We've got to go see that. World of Avatar, Disney's Animal Kingdom, people are like, we have got to go see that. That's the only place in the world that thing is. We have got to go see that. It's worked a million times. It worked with Mystic Manor and Grizzly Gulch in Hong Kong. It drew the people in. It's a tried and true formula. It will make the money. It will save the day. And so I'm glad they came around on that and are building a land that is, even if it's one ride, which both of these are, something big and grandiose. But I'm saying, like, something cheaper than Lion King that had one ride that was a small immersive world would have set the tone. I think would have set the tone better. But nonetheless, we're getting 2 more flat rides at Disney Adventure World. But now let's get to the things I really like. Now, getting out there to the 7.5 acre bay, you stand and you look at it, and undoubtedly, it feels like you're in an entirely different park. So if their goal was, we want to make this park feel like a completely different place, I don't know that there's a project where they've ever done that better. Disney California Adventure was a fantastic reimagining. Buena Vista Street, Cars Land, World of Color, the reimagining of Paradise Pier were all magnificent changes. But at the end of the day, if you visited that park previously and went back, you'd still realize, like, oh yeah, there's still, the bones of this park are still here. This is still California Adventure. They just made it good. And I think that's true of all the parks that have had a reimagining or an expansion, Hollywood Studios, Epcot, all of those, they're still those parks. They didn't kind of start over. They didn't make them feel like something else. In the case of Disney Adventure World, having stepped back there, I can tell you, it feels like another place. And you look back at the old part of the park, and you're just like, how is that here? Like, how is that the same place? That's crazy. And it is. I will say, it is so giant and open back there. The walkways are so, Adventure Bay's path around it is so wide and big and open, and there's so much expansion land just sitting there that it reminds me of Shanghai Disney in every way. If you've ever been to Shanghai Disneyland, it's a great park. I like Shanghai Disneyland very much. But there are places you walk in that park where there are just big open, giant open pathways and trees, and you're like, huh, this will be something someday, I guess. And that's what it feels like at Disney. It feels so much like Shanghai Disney back there right now. The minute we walked on the site, someone had a really good observation, which was, where's the shade? And that was, I think, clear immediately that there was not enough shade. There are a couple of gazebo structures, not a lot, along Adventure Bay, and I think they're going to regret that a little bit. There are some trellises that I think they hope vines and stuff will grow upon, but probably not enough shade structure. They've built some very cute little food kiosks and food venues around the bay as well. And I will say, you could tell where the money on this project went. It's nice to see handmade stained glass signage for these venues, things like that that make a quality difference. They stand out so starkly from the park that has existed thus far, where there was very little craftsmanship evident to the guests in the theme park. And now you're looking at something where there is some exquisite artistry happening around you. I will say architecturally, I think the buildings around the bay turned out great. The Art Nouveau meets Mediterranean meets this and that. It worked really well. I think the mix and match of these architectural stylings is going to pay off. I think you're going to have a space that really sings. And the use of popcorn lights are just always going to be charming. That is always going to work. So that inspiration they drew from World Expositions and World's Fairs in the architecture and also in the lighting package works really well. It's a charming and do I think they're going to reach the levels of charm and artistry that the first park has? No. No, you'd have to spend a lot more money to get to that level. But it's clear they spent a lot of money, and certainly more than they've spent in the past on this particular park. Now, on the way around the lagoon, towards the front of Adventure Bay, you have the Regal View Restaurant. Okay, so the largest food venue on Adventure Bay is going to be the Regal View Restaurant and Lounge. Now, I'm going to read you what Disney has to say about this particular venue. Before continuing their adventures in Disney Adventure World, it's such a bad park name. Guests can relax and enjoy a delicious meal at the new table service restaurant located on Adventure Way. It is right off of Adventure Way, and then it sits on Adventure Bay. The Regal View Restaurant and Lounge. This elegant venue will welcome guests for breakfast, lunch, and dinner in a refined atmosphere decorated with embroidered drapes, floral tapestries, delicate wood moldings, and impressive murals illustrating Disney princesses such as Snow White, Tiana, Moana, and more. Guests of all ages will have the chance to meet some of these princesses, such as Belle, Merida, Jasmine, Aurora, Mulan, or Ariel, to share unforgettable moments. Some princesses, such as Aurora or Ariel, will be wearing stunning, never-before-seen looks at Disneyland Paris. Every detail has been meticulously designed by Imagineers, such as the ornamental plates reflecting the world of each Disney princess. These are handcrafted by Royal Delft, the renowned Dutch porcelain manufacturer and official supplier to the Dutch royal family. The magnificent canopy above the restaurant's entrance was created by Schaffner Workshops in Alsace, whose expertise in artistic ironwork dates back to the early 19th century. The new restaurant will also offer some tables with ideal views of Adventure Bay, making it the perfect spot to enjoy dinner while admiring Disney Cascade of Lights, the new nighttime spectacular. And the culinary teams are currently finalizing the menu to ensure it harmonizes perfectly with the exceptional new setting. Meanwhile, the Regal View Lounge, the very first bar located inside either of the two Disneyland Paris theme parks, will offer guests a relaxing break in bright space adorned with royal blue hues. An elegant wooden bar with golden accents will anchor the room, surrounded by paintings and illustrations honoring the beloved animal companions of Disney princesses such as Hei, Pascal, and Mushu. Guests can sip a signature cocktail or explore a variety of drinks inspired by Disney princesses' personalities, all while enjoying breathtaking views of the lake and world of Frozen, accompanied by piano renditions of Disney classics. So that's what Disney has to say about this. as we did the walk around, this was one of the first stops we had, and I like the exterior a little bit. It reminded me so much of Fantasy Springs Hotel in Tokyo, but that's where the similarities ended, because the inside is what the inside of the Fantasy Springs Hotel should have looked like. Dripping with detail. No expense was spared in this space. It is magnificent. It is one of my favorite interiors I have ever seen in a Disney theme park. I love the mix of just lush interior, no expense spared, wood finishes, all this handwork that was done, this handmade artistry, and then mixed in with these gorgeous murals of the Disney princesses. And the backstory of this is a place that the princesses would go, you know, sort of on their, maybe summer vacation is the wrong term, but on their break, this is a place they could come relax and unwind and get away from it all. And that's why you meet them in this setting. Meanwhile, the Royal View Lounge is basically the first Ivan Earl themed bar. Ivan Earl, the artist who is most known for his work on Sleeping Beauty, those magnificent backdrops, very distinct artistic style, and it's an Ivan Earl bar. What Disney fan would not be excited about this? Again, another gorgeous space, piano music, just feels posh and just a nice relaxing place with gorgeous, and the views out the windows. Everything about this restaurant was done right. Maybe except the back of the exterior. The exterior could have used a little more work, but either way, nonetheless, this was my favorite thing we saw the whole day. I cannot wait to dine in this space. I cannot wait to grab a drink at this lounge. It really sets the tone for what this park can be. And as you look out those windows, you can see the vision of all these immersive worlds sitting around the lake. And I hate to be that guy. I know we just gushed in 2025 about Epic Universe, and I like Epic Universe very much. But then I saw this and I go, man, this is like the better version of Epic Universe. Because look, I like the portal idea, but if you rip the portals away and instead put the lands around the body of water, kind of like Epcot World Showcase, like having this view where you have Pride Rock, the North Mountain, and then, you know, whatever the future might hold, going around this lake, you could have a vista that is very, very special, and kind of this like multiverse, this real life multiverse view where you could sit there, enjoy a cocktail, and look out and just see this mountain range of all these most classic movies ever made. I think that is a very cool prospect. And that's why I'm kind of sad that they're doing this piecemeal and they didn't just like close the park and just go for it. And just be like, we're going to open this. It's going to be a whole new park and there's going to be all these lands around. And to think of that as a brand new park concept for Disney is really exciting, and it could be something very cool and different. In the age of IP, it feels like the next natural evolution. Like, look, I still want parks like Disneyland Park, like Disneyland, like Magic Kingdom. I still like the parks where there is a genre that connects the attractions and not a single IP. I do still prefer that. But I do think there is something to be said for a companion park to the original vision. So if the original vision is IP and attractions grouped by genre, the next evolution is a place where all your favorite movie worlds coexist and live side by side, is a cool concept too. And I think the two of those, if that's your first park and your second park at any Disney resort in the world, I think that's a really strong concept. And they actually do complement each other then. And they're two different things. You don't ruin what you got so right about Disneyland Paris the first time because you want to build those immersive themed worlds that are single IP in both parks. Just put them all in Park 2 and continue to build Disneyland Park the way originally intended, with lands that tell a story and have interconnected, not interconnected, but have several different IPs that tell the same story, of the story of adventure in Adventureland, the story of the Old West in Frontierland, the story of, Jules Verne and H.G. Wells and great visionaries of tomorrow in Discoveryland. That should be what that park always is. It should never have movie lands in it. And then you could have Park 2, which is the place that is, this is what Walt Disney's vision has evolved to become is fully immersive worlds that are the movies you've watched on the screen and you step into and you are living in that world. That's my 2 cents on it. I think that's what Imagineers have in mind here, and I think they have a chance to get that very right for this resort, in that they'll have 2 parks that are very unique from each other, and you keep the integrity of Park A while giving a really strong new concept to Park B. I'm excited about that possibility. Now, moving away from the Regal View, I'm excited about all the new food options too. They talked a lot about just new food. They're going to be doing bread bowls and different specialty artisanal hot dogs and things. And this park has so few food options that I'm pretty stoked about it. Regal View is exciting. I mean, I love Bistro Chez Remy. Glad that's there. This park needs more dining, and it's thankfully going to be getting it. But as we work our way around Adventure Bay, I want to talk about the new nighttime show, Disney Cascade of Lights. This, for me, other than Regal View, was the highlight. I went in with, I think for years I've heard things about this show where I was like, oh, it'll be okay. And I think the preview we got, I was really blown away. I was absolutely blown away. And I'm like, this sounds really great. I am very excited about this. But let me read you a little what Disney has to say about it. At nightfall, as Adventure Bay will fall into darkness, something extraordinary will awaken. Barges quietly gliding into position. Hear that, Epcot? Will set the stage for a brand new, never-before-seen nighttime spectacular, Disney Cascade of Lights. More than just a show, this spectacular is designed as an emotional journey, an invitation for every guest to believe in their own inner strength, to embrace wonder, and to feel the power of storytelling in a way only Disney can deliver. Designed as the grand finale to each day at Disney Adventure World, the show will deliver an unforgettable experience for guests of all ages. Designed in 360-degree configuration with tiered viewing areas, it allows visitors to enjoy exceptional views from around the bay. Pushing the boundaries of innovation, the production will feature the world's first integration of a revolutionary aquatic drone system, along with next-generation aerial drones, creating breathtaking choreographies that unfold simultaneously across the sky and the water. The new production will invite every guest to step into the story and embrace their own heroic journey, inspired by the courage and determination of stories including Disney Animation's Mulan, Hercules, Moana, and Zootopia, Pixar's Up, and as well from the Marvel Universe. The show will combine immersive staging with cutting-edge effects to create an experience unique to Disneyland Paris. Guests will enjoy unprecedented proximity to a wide range of elements, including water screens, choreographed fountains, large-scale projections, dynamic lighting, special effects, and pyrotechnics. At its centerpiece, a world-exclusive ballet of 379 drones developed in collaboration with official technology provider Dronosos will illuminate the sky and water with intricate formations and dazzling choreography. New aquatic drone technology has been created exclusively for the new show and in keeping with the resort's continued focus on innovation and entertainment. The experience will be brought to life with powerful soundtrack recorded by a 90-piece orchestra. Featuring new arrangements of beloved Disney music, the score includes an original adaptation of How Far I'll Go from Moana, as well as an entirely new anthem created for the show, called We Can Be Heroes. Together, these elements will showcase an unprecedented blend of technology, artistry, and storytelling, establishing the production as a new milestone in Disney nighttime entertainment. In the coming months, the entertainment team will undertake extensive rehearsals to perfect the seamless choreography of aerial and aquatic drones, combined with cutting-edge special effects, ensuring a breathtaking experience from the very start of the expansion. Disneyland Paris and drones, they set the world on fire, them and Dronosos, since the first drone show a couple years ago. And every time I see something new with drones from them, it's unbelievable how fast the technology is changing and how much better it is getting constantly. From what we had for the 30th anniversary, what we had for Electrical Sky Parade, what you have in the nighttime show now at Disneyland Paris. We had it in the Marvel show they did a while ago at Walt Disney Studios Park. And now the fact that the aerial drones are not even in that press release, but we got to talk to the show director. They had brand new drones built. These are the first drones ever custom built purely for show. Never been done before. And so they are faster and brighter, and it's going to change the whole game again. What I will say is my quick explanation of this nighttime show is imagine the nighttime show currently at Epcot. luminous. Imagine that where you have the barges in the center, but imagine if on those barges you added mist screens, and then imagine if around the barges you added aquatic drones, and then in the sky above the barges you added aerial drones, and then take away a little bit of pyro. Then you have this show. Now, what's funny is all those things I just mentioned are the things I think we said when Luminous debuted. I'm pretty sure in the honest review of that's here on the channel, you could find me say something to the effect of like, oh, if you had drones and mist screens, this would be perfect. And I think they realize that. And that's what this is building off of, is they're like, okay, we like the setup we had in the World Showcase Lagoon at Epcot and the way that show's staged. Now let's add these other elements in and go full throttle with the new show in Paris. That's what it feels like to me. And it looks really cool. I'm very excited to see this. I think this is going to steal the show. I think this is going to become the highlight of the reopening. And I keep saying reopening, the rebranding, I should say, come March 29th is going to be this show. This is going to be big business. I think you're going to have to fight to get you could buy reserved space to watch nighttime shows at Disneyland Paris. I think this is one where you're going to have to book that several weeks in advance if you want it. It's going to be in high demand. I think this is going to blow the nighttime show at Disneyland Paris out of the water. Pardon the pun. I'm very excited about this. The little preview we got it's exciting to see, and I think this is the next evolution. I think it also opens the door for Epcot. I think it absolutely is the sign of what's to come at Epcot, where I think this will debut and they'll see the feedback. And if the feedback's strong, I think Disney World will say, okay, let's pop mist screens and drones into Luminous. Let's do it. But this does seem to be the culmination of a lot of ideas of the last several years. And I don't know if you guys remember Rivers of Light and Animal Kingdom, but originally they were supposed to be essentially aquatic drones. They're supposed to be these little lanterns that float out into the water. They never made it into the show, but they're in the original concept art. They never made it in. And it seems like now we're kind of going to see that. We're going to see that in this show. It has happened. Disney has partnered with Dronosos, who has been an unbelievable partner, and they're going to put on something that I think the world is not going to soon forget. Now, topping this all off, entertainment-wise, they're going to do some very cool stuff. In the gazebo along Adventure Way, they're going to do a bunch of entertainment seasonally. It'll change. In the spring, it's going to be Rapunzel and Flynn Rider. In the summer, I think it's going to be Mary Poppins and the Pearly Band. In the fall, they're going to do something with Coco for Dia de los Muertos. And then you'll be able to find Mickey and Minnie in brand new costumes there for meet and greets, which are very, very charming costumes. As well, Minnie has a new band show. They're going to have a marching band with Minnie that performs a couple times a day and performs Disney songs, including He's a Pirate and songs from Frozen, et cetera, et cetera. That's all super exciting. Love that. Disneyland Paris always on it when it comes to entertainment. I also love that World of Frozen is getting a unique entertainment offering on some boats. So in the Arendelle Harbor, not in Adventure Bay, this will be, you travel under the bridge back towards Frozen. There is the Arendelle Marina, essentially. And in that bay, there will be boats that come out, and you'll have Kristoff and Olaf and Anna and Elsa and the citizens of Arendelle welcoming you to Arendelle. I think that will be great to see. I think it's going to bring that land to life. Because I'm concerned. This World of Frozen has me concerned. Now, the one in Hong Kong is much more fleshed out. There is more to it. There's essentially a whole other side, which is the woods. So across from the castle and the North Mountain and all of that, you have the water, and then you have Wandering Oak and Sliding Sleighs, the roller coaster, and inside that building you also have what is the name of it? Something in the Woods. Playhouse in the Woods? Yeah. The Playhouse in the Woods, which is a show venue. So you have all of that added on in another quick serve, another like kiosk out that way. And you just erased all of that for this World of Frozen. And you just have Frozen Ever After, a meet and greet facility, which is the unique part to this, the counter service and some shopping venues. So it is kind of a half-baked one. Look, Hong Kong was going to be hard to beat because of the mountains. The real mountains behind gave Hong Kong, that park is in a location where it has an unfair advantage over all the other Disney parks in the world because it is in the most beautiful spot of any of them. And the fact that that Frozen got put there is nuts. It is nuts. Go watch the honest review of that World of Frozen. That'll set up a lot of the framework for what I'm talking about here. Establish a lot of the framework. But I think it's a big loss to not have something on the other side there and only have one ride. I think that was a bit of a mistake. Thankfully, again, they're fleshing a lot of this out with all this additional entertainment. This boat show is not something that you can see in Hong Kong. It is wholly exclusive to here. The other exclusive element is the meet and greet facility. You are going to actually meet Anna and Elsa inside their castle. You're going in to the palace in Arendelle to meet them. This will operate in a similar style to the Avengers meet and greet facility that's in Avengers Campus in this park, which is book a virtual wait time. You go in, there's like a little waiting room, and then you're called and you get to individually spend time with the character. It's a more intimate way, and I think overall just a better process. I don't care about the Marvel characters at all, and I love that experience. I think it's set up in a nice way. And so to see it with these characters, I think it's going to be a smash hit. I think that's a great offering here, and it will mean a lot to the guests here. That being said, again, I would have liked another attraction in this land. They didn't get, at one point in the concept art was alien swirling saucers added to Toy Story Playland. And they didn't get that. That got axed and taken off. And instead in that space, now you just have a long winding path. Off of Adventure Way, you now have a long winding path, another entrance into Toy Story Land. And I don't know that works either. All the connections to the old park is, no matter what, no matter how much positive I have to say today, all the connections from the old park to the new park look weird. They just don't gel. They're not good transitions. It was clear that's like, well, we want to build a new park with a new presence. And it's like, well, unfortunately, you have to connect it to what's here. And they're like, okay. And they just kind of drew the lines and they're like, okay, it's connected, I guess. And then they just were like, I'm not even looking back at that end of the park. Everyone just look towards World of Frozen and pretend that doesn't exist, because this transition is never going to work. Where was it? Oh, yeah. So, you're not building that attraction in Toy Story Land anymore. Why couldn't that have been pushed into World of Frozen? I remember seeing concept art for one of the World of Frozen, not for this one. I don't know if it was for Hong Kong or the original idea in Tokyo, but there was a plan where they had like a Sven attraction where he's pulling the sled, and it's like alien swirling saucers or Mater's Junkyard Jamboree, and it looks like it would be like that ride system, and you go around and the sleigh would whip behind him. And that would have, it's another flat ride, but at least you would have fleshed out this land a little bit. I know I'm a hypocrite because I just yelled about how they shouldn't build flat rides, but I would have rather got rid of the flat rides on Adventure Way and built that into World of Frozen to flesh out World of Frozen more, because this one doesn't feel like a complete world to me. Now, I may feel different when it's actually open, but just walking around the little bit of it we got to, it didn't feel as complete and as enthralling as the one in Hong Kong. It almost felt like the path where you get to look at it. So the bridge from which you get to look at World of Frozen, you'll see this when if you watch the drone show that announced the opening date, you could see our vantage from said bridge on the side of the land or the side of the world. It is a much longer walk, and you get to take in more of World of Frozen from outside of it than you do from in it, because they didn't build another side of it. Like World of Frozen there's kind of a lighthouse all the way out on that bridge, and then you have to meander all the way around and into the small village of Arendelle, where I think, again, in Hong Kong, it feels like the full world, like just adding that little bit more of the woods, expanding the world a little further down to the right made a big difference. So I wish they'd fleshed this one out, even with another flat ride, just something that built out that world a little more, or come up with another unique attraction. I mean, it's Frozen. It's got 2 films so far. It's going to have 2 more, I'm sure, unless maybe they're planning to expand it. Maybe that's an expansion plot for World of Frozen. I don't know. I don't think it is, but maybe. There will be a small waterfall back there eventually. That's not done yet, but I don't know. World of Frozen's a good land. I think the whole little town will work for people. Frozen Ever After is a very good ride. Is it Anna and Elsa's Frozen journey from Tokyo? Of course it's not. But I ranted and raved about how much I liked Frozen Ever After from Hong Kong. And so I don't have any problem with it being here. And I like the idea of the story that it ties into the land's entire connected backstory. So here it is, the Snowflower Festival. So it's going by a different name here than it does in Hong Kong, or even by the name it goes by in the Disney World attraction. It has a different name, but it's the same thing where they're celebrating when Anna saved her sister with an act of true love and thawed a frozen heart, and or Elsa saved Anna. You know, you've seen the movie. Either way, it celebrates that moment, and it's the two sisters, the snow and the sunflower, celebrated. And I love that interconnected story. It's Happy Summer Snow Day in Hong Kong, but here it'll be the Snowflower Festival. I like that backstory because the cast members in the land get to play into that, and every venue in the land gets to play into it, and you feel like you're there for a special event. I like that story very much. It works really, really well. So that's cool to have that again. But yeah, I appreciate the merchandising effort. I like that they're going to have the interactive trolls here, the Runa, and they're going to be able to talk to each other. It's something different here. A lot of the other product was shared. There's a lot of stuff that is carried over from the Hong Kong merchandise, which is fine, but some good original product coming up as well. The classic Disneyland Paris fashion. No one beats Disneyland Paris in their collectibles merchandising game. So the fact that they're building the big clock tower, they're making the big clock tower, building it. They're making a replica of the clock tower you can take home and things like that is very, very cool. But I'm sure we'll talk a lot more about merchandise when we get to opening in March of next year. For the food venue, they have the Nordic, what is the name of it? Sorry, it's the same exact restaurant as the Golden Crocus, but it has a different name here. I'm gonna find it's Nordic something. Nordic Crowns Tavern. I'm sure we'll remember that. The Nordic Crowns Tavern is the name of the counter service. It is absolutely 100% identical to the Golden Crocus Inn, which is the restaurant in Hong Kong. The food will be different. Something new for Disneyland Paris is a fully customizable food option where you could pick a base and a protein and such. This is a nice change for Disneyland Paris, and also they said several times how much they're going to focus on allergies and sensitivities and those who are vegan and have something for everybody. That's phenomenal. Love that. Great. So food and beverage wise, very excited for World of Frozen. It's a great interior. It's hard for me to be excited. I'm a spoiled brat, right? It's hard for me to be excited about a land I've already seen. Like I've been to the one in Hong Kong, and I think the one in Hong Kong is a little better. And this is very exciting for this park. I think this is a nice, immersive land, good dining experience, a very good attraction. Paris is going to round it out with some entertainment that is wholly theirs. It's very exclusive to them, and some good little shopping opportunities. And it's going to round out the land very well. It's going to be a long wait to Lion King, I think, because I think this park's people are going to pack in to see this and see the new things. And I think it's going to make it feel like a long wait to Lion King. But I think once you get that and eventually the Lion King land on board, is going to be a very interesting park. But I think you're still going to need another one. And obviously, the cat's kind of out of the bag at this point. I know for years, when we were not on the Disney media list, and I used to spoil all the plans, one of the things that used to happen a lot was, especially Paris, I would spoil the plans. And I know we talked for a while when Star Wars, the rumor that Star Wars wasn't happening came about. And then we started talking about, okay, well, the internal rumors are Lion King and Avatar. Lion King and Avatar, and they're not sure which one they want to do next. And then, of course, we said, okay, it seems like Lion King has been chosen. And then Disney finally announced it's going to be Lion King. And so the question becomes, well, they still want to do Avatar? I mean, Avatar is a film franchise that has made a lot of money in Europe and in France. And so, of course, Disney put out, for Cascade of Light, they showed us an image of the barges in that show, and the barges had very interesting names. They had one that was labeled Racer, which points towards RC Racer or Cars Road Trip. It points in that direction. There is another one that says Lion, which points towards what will be Lion King. There is one that points towards Frozen, for Frozen. And then the last one is Na'vi. Na'vi, of course, the name of the people on Pandora. That points to an expansion pad which is maybe where Pandora would go. Man, what a crazy park this will be. Like if we wake up in 7 years and you're like, oh wow, that park has Lion King and World of Frozen and Pandora. And I think it's so important for them to round out that lagoon, but I also think it's really important for them to go back and fix the front. I think there's still a lot of problems up front. And I think at some point, if they really believe in Disneyland Paris, I would just spend the money a little quicker. I would just get some of it done quicker. I would make a statement. I think it's important to make a statement, but I think they're still so worried. Disneyland Paris has been through so much in its 30-something years of the trials and tribulations of the original park until it finally found its footing. And then the second park opened and it sent them into a spiral again. And, you know, and now coming out of the 30th anniversary, they're so successful, and there's all this excitement of this reimagining and the Disney Village reimagining and the potential of more resort hotels, which another horribly kept Disneyland Paris secret. The future is very bright in Paris, and I wish they'd just embrace it and see that and just say like, yeah, we know it's bright, and we're going to make it even brighter, and just really go for it. We're not going to wait 7 or 8 years to see this whole thing through. And in the meantime, we're going to embark on a lot of good little projects in the front of this park to fix it. And there's some of that happening, right? Remy's Ratatouille Adventure is closed right now for a refurb to make it 2D and also to add some more propping and to add a new scene to the queue. That's great. I love that. I hope we see more of that, like individually as things open in the back of the park. I want to see things close up front, at least for improvements, if not replacement. I want to see the front of the park continue to be fresh and new and exciting. And I think there are opportunities. Like right now, it seems all but confirmed that the Frozen show inside the animation building in the front of the park is no more. It's going to end and be gone. And so that'll be empty. And so what do you put in there? Frozen would be silly because you're building a Frozen land. So what's going to go in there? Like, I hope there's another big thing planned for up there. And we keep continuing to try to fix the problems that exist up front while we continue to build out this grand vision in the back. And it is a grand vision. I didn't believe it. I didn't drink the Kool-Aid till I stood at the Regal View and looked out that window and I could see for real what they're doing. And again, it's not necessarily for me. None of these things are the things that excite me. Like Lion King excites me quite a bit actually. World of Frozen excites me in no way. Like I've seen it done better and bigger, and it's like, okay. There's nothing about the flat rides that excites me, but the grand vision of what it will be, this very pretty garden walkway out to this big 7.5 acre lagoon with a big nighttime show and these big immersive worlds plotted all around that bay. The overall vision, when completed, can be something very special and can make this one of the better Disney theme parks, for sure. Again, I just wish the ambition was there to do it a little faster and do it all at once and make a big statement and say, this is Disney Adventure World, it's a new park, and we're ready. Instead, it's kind of like, well, yeah, we're changing the name of the park, and some of it's ready, and then we hope you'll come back as we finish more of it. The in phases thing kind of bothers me, but maybe that's the fanboy in me, and I'm sure from a business aspect that makes way more financial sense, and if you can get away with it, you probably should get away with it. And I think, I genuinely think they will. Now, of course, we'll revisit all of this in March when the Disney Adventure World and all its new facets actually open to the public. But for now, this is what we have to unpack. But I do think it's a bright future for them. Surprisingly so. I think a couple weeks ago I would have told you the opposite. But I think they have the right people creatively in charge. I think there's big things happening. And there are other statements being made entertainment-wise. I think the Walk-Around Olaf, of course, you've seen this, I'm sure. There is an audio animatronic autonomous robot Olaf that will appear in the land in various ways, shapes, and forms. I hope that's permanently. I hope this isn't going to be just it appears a couple of times and then they're like, okay, that's the end of his testing period. Bye, everybody. I hope Disney makes a statement and this is a permanent piece of this land. Unlike the BDX droids and those and things, and you have to actively hunt them down. I hope these are things that just are always a part of said land and bring it to life, because that is a bold, ambitious thing, that Olaf robot, and I think he should always be there to bring that world to life for the guests that walk into World of Frozen. Hopefully that happens. But yeah, I think that makes a statement. I think the Olaf robot makes a statement for sure, and I hope that statement continues with everything they have planned for the rest of Disney Adventure World. But March 29th, 2026, mark your calendars. That's when World of Frozen, the new nighttime show, Adventure Way, Adventure Bay, the Rapunzel Tangled Spin, Regal View Restaurant and Lounge, all that little new dining, all that stuff's going to open then and there. And again, Walt Disney Studios Park will be no more. That's a wrap for the park that was, and we'll have this brand new park to experience. Let me know in the comments how you feel about all this, and there's a lot to unpack, a lot to talk about. I'll be happy to join you in the comments for a conversation. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button and please subscribe for more, and we'll see you real soon.